Well, hello YouTube, it is Coffee Talk with Haze, episode 19. Today I thought we would just talk about gear. It's time we just talk about gear acquisition syndrome. Maybe I can throw in how I kind of started on YouTube with my hobby that I'm doing with this channel. Which, by the way, looking back at all these coffee talks that I'm doing, I've been, has this been worthwhile for me to do it? And the answer is, well, of course. I'm doing everything on this channel for myself, so if I'm the only person that I need to please, then it's just that simple. If I put a video up, then obviously I enjoyed it and I want it to be there. Otherwise, why should I care? I mean, I guess I would care if I was playing the monetization game, but I'm not playing the monetization game. Now, what does this have to do with gear? Well, it has everything to do with gear on YouTube, unfortunately, but we're not really here to talk about that. That's maybe a talk for another day. But I do want to preface everything that I'm talking about here because, how do I say this? I don't want people to be jealous. Myself, other people out there, it's really hard to do. And I really, deep in my heart, believe this is a big problem that's going on across the board right now on all kinds of platforms and social media outlets. Coffee time. But, I mean, that's the thing, is that for me personally, sitting behind a computer and producing music using virtual plugins that are all right there on the screen and moving everything around just like right here, that's not fun for me. I don't enjoy that at all. And I fully understand that that's how you get stuff done in the real world. I mean, if I was a professional music producer, that's how I would be producing music, is using totally digital, virtual music noise-making devices, namely VSTs. What does VST stand for? I always forget. Virtual something. It's a plug-in. When they first hit the market, is about the time that I got out of wanting to be in music production. You may recall in a lot of past videos that I talked about, in 1995 I graduated with a an audio engineering degree. It's called recording industry management, but now they call it audio engineering, so it's kind of cooler that way. I think it makes a lot of more sense. I mean, that is what I was studying, is audio engineering, more specifically electronic music. But I did study, what am I trying to say, multi-track recording using 2-inch analog tape, using analog and digital boards. We had an SSL board in one of our studios, and of course, wow, all this stuff sounds really good, to tell you the truth. I mean, the funny thing is, I'm getting off the beaten path, but the SSL at that time in the 90s was actually a little critical for being kind of digital, a little harsh. I think that maybe its sampling rate and the bit rate that it was running at for some of its DSP was about as, on the borderline low. By today's standards, maybe not very professional even. So yeah, even though these things were the new cutting edge, at the same time, they weren't all that great. And it's hard to see that, right? Sometimes it's hard to see past that veil, that magic, that marketing spin, that's been thrown on everything, to understand, oh, okay, this is just the same thing as before, and on top of that, it's going to get better in 5-6 years from now, and then it's going to be really cool to talk about. But right now, it may be better just to stick with the older ways, namely analog, or whatever. So here, we're flipping everything around, Well, maybe we should be using digital instead of analog. Okay, I'm getting way off the beaten path here, so let me take a sip and sit back. But the reason why I mentioned talking about gear is, two things. One, it's time for me to do a studio tour. Haven't done that yet, and the reason why I'm holding off was two things. Getting a little lost here. One, making sure that everything is going to work when I turn everything on, that there's not going to be any technical difficulties, because when you go through and you showcase 20 pieces, 30 pieces of gear, inevitably something along the way, something's going to happen. So I've just been making sure that every time I fire everything up and I run everything through, that that I understand what the technical difficulties are going to be, and I'm able to predict what's going to happen. If you see what I'm trying to say there, hopefully, because I stated that kind of poorly. But no, that's what it amounts to, is experience in terms of time invested in just using the gear that you have. And not just using the gear that you have like on an individual basis, like, you know, oh, I got this one box and I've really learned how to use this thing in and out. When you integrate and connect all of these things together and you try to have them communicate with each other, that's when the real gremlins show up, and that's when things really, you know, like the problems start happening. And a lot of times, especially in my case, from my experience, it's a little bit of ignorance. Right here. So case in point, I was trying to do something the other day. I thought it had to do with the interconnectivity using the cables that I was using. It was a setting that I was failing to see, and to my defense, it was a misgiving on the device's behalf, meaning that I want to set it to a certain position and save it every time, and you're supposed to be able to do that, but this one thing reverts back to a default state that doesn't work for me every time I turn the device on. Everything else, when I set it to it and hit save settings, they save, but this one, for whatever reason, I haven't updated this device. There's a new update and I haven't updated it yet, so maybe this fixes that bug. Maybe this is a known issue and it is a bug and the latest update fixes it. That goes right back to me, in a sense, on my ignorance. But again, I always stress to people, when new updates come out, don't be victims. You don't have to be the first ones to install these updates to get the new features. Ooh, I gotta have the new features. I gotta have the new thing, right? Something happens to us, maybe around age 35, 30, younger, older, I don't know, something happens. Most people, once they hit a watershed age, they cross a Rubicon, and they start to understand, I don't have to keep up anymore. I don't have to use the latest, greatest thing to be happy. Because a lot of this really boils down to happiness. Seriously. If you're happy, you're content, you're not wanting for more. See what I'm getting at? So you may be asking, how do I cure gas? Well, that's a great question. Right now, I feel like I don't have gas. But to say that my gas is cured would be foolish, because that's ludicrous. There's so many things out there that I still want. Do I need them? Absolutely not. I can't think of really anything that I need to have in my studio. So, sorry to say it this way, but that is one of the first things that you kind of need to do to cure yourself of gas, is to make sure that you have everything that you want. But see, obviously, if you look around on YouTube, back to two things. Did I go back to the other second thing that I was talking about before? I don't think I did. I think I wandered too far past and we're long gone. Maybe it'll come back to me here in a second. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video, right. And I am pulling to it, actually. The first one was that I'm overdue for a studio tour, which I'm hoping to do real soon. We'll talk about that more maybe, but you know, we'll see a video and we'll talk about what I'm going to say here anyways when you see that video, so it's not important. But the other second thing that I'm getting now back to full circle to, can you have too much gear? Is it possible to have too much gear? The answer is absolutely yes. Obviously yes. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise, that, you know, oh no, you can't have too much gear. You know, see, the devil is in the details on what they're not telling you. That's the important thing, is that they keep the focus on the things that they don't want you to talk about, and you don't think about the important things. Number one, when are you going to move? Physically move. When are you going to have to move and pack up all that stuff and go to a new location? How far is that new location going to be? Let me tell you, I recently moved 60 miles from one location to the other. That was how far I moved. And I've moved across the country before, by the way, with my gear. We'll get to that in a second, hopefully. But recently I moved 60 miles. And this was my first move after having, you know, a mega setup. It was stressful beyond belief. On one hand, it offered me an opportunity to go through and to catalog everything and to make sure, you know, that I understand what I have. Not just what I have in terms of each device, but all the cables, man. All of the wall warts that I have. I don't even know how many wall warts that I have right now. It's crazy. It's not a ridiculous amount, but it's a lot. A lot of them are being used. You know, I definitely have labels for all of this stuff, and it also allowed me to how do I say this? This is very important. There's a level that you get to, and there's not a whole lot of YouTubers out there right now that are doing this that have actual patch bays, right? That they're actually using those patch bays like every day actively. You know, my patch bays are set up to be used like modular Eurorack people patch up their modules. That was kind of the whole point of it. Was I've got a lot of effects, and I've got a lot of other gear that's doesn't have room on all the mixers that I have necessarily, and it's nice to be able to have them up and running, be able to patch them as I need. And I'm still not done. You know, I'm still not done. I've got still yet to go is I have to set up not only my electronic workbench, that's another story, but my little micro jam setup, my second jamming station setup. And there's a couple issues that I'm dealing with there. One is that it piggybacks off the main rig, so it's kind of like everything has to be fired up, which is not a huge problem, but I like to be able to fire up the mini rig totally independently of having the main one running. That makes the most sense. But unfortunately, because I'm using the same audio interface, that presents a little bit of a problem. Of course, all the mixers that are involved. So I guess the solution there would be able to have just my main mixer fire up, and the other section. For now, I'm not going to worry about any of that. If I need to do a micro jam, everything comes on. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. I've already tested the waters a little bit with my electricity bill. I'm telling you, folks. These air conditioners that you hear in the background, you know, in your refrigerators and your ovens, they draw so much more power and current and have a much higher voltage requirements that they really swamp. The one thing that I did add was I have a guitar amplifier that I'm running right now, and I haven't actually tested to see, like, you know, how much current draw is that really taking. I believe it only runs at 10 watts. I mean, that is nothing for a guitar amp. That's very, very micro. But that's just a nice little monitoring tool that I can use, so I can take the headphones off, walk around the room if I need to. But yeah, so you know, curing gas. I mean, let's face it. The first thing is you have to have at least the majority of the stuff that you want. Let's be realistic here. The majority of the stuff that you need. You first have to understand the difference between what you want and what you need. And it is nice to be able to have things that you want on top of what you need. To be able to, in other words, to upgrade, right? To be able to say, like, well, okay, instead of having a Volca or even a Roland Boutique, to jump up to, I don't know, some kind of sequentials, big keyboard, or an Electron or something like that, you know. You don't need sequential. You don't need Electron. You don't. Everything that they offer, you can do with the less professional equipment. The difference is not the sound. That's what the pros, I mean, that's what the marketing people want you to think, is that you're not going to be able to get the sound. You can get any sound you want. It's up to you to get the sound. Seriously. And you can get it through presets too. But it's up to you to understand what it takes to sweeten up the sound to get it to where it sounds as good as anything else. Because what you're getting with an Electron, like let's say a Digitact, is you're getting everything sort of pre-sweetened for you. The sound that comes out of that thing is pretty much going to be perfect and ready to go. What I mean by that is that it doesn't need to be mastered per se. Don't go off the rails here from what I just said. Okay, what I'm saying is that, like, you know, when you have a track, and if you have all your gain staging properly, efficiently set, optimally set, whatever that is, that's completely subjective, but whatever that optimal setting is, right, for any given situation, if you find that sweet spot and you get something out of that Digitact recorded into whatever sound source you're going, the difference between you mastering and not mastering is going to be minimal. It's already going to be ready to go. That's one of the things that I wish I could stress to home recording enthusiasts across the board, and especially hardware jammers, and what we're doing, the people that are most interested in this channel, and the people that are in this community, most in the community that I'm talking to right now. I'm in a lot of different communities, by the way, so but the hardware jammers, right? Techno music kind of stuff. The sounds that we're dealing with that are coming out of our gear are almost just ready to go. There's really little that you need to, I'm sorry, there's like this fly that keeps attacking me right now. It is the most annoying thing. It's like, wow, will you go away and leave us alone? Thank you. Maybe it wants my coffee. It likes my knees. I don't know why. Okay. So these sounds, they're really, really ready to go. A lot of times what I'm doing is I'm actually subtracting from what's coming out of this stuff. So what I would propose is that what's coming out of like an Electron Digitact, you don't even need to subtract it. See what I'm saying? Like all of the frequencies, however they do it, they use internal compression, use a lot of digital signal processing within that unit to make it sound that good. You don't need any of that. You can do all that yourself. Seriously, did you see that fly right there? That's what I'm talking about. This thing will not leave. He's like dive bombing me. You don't need all of that. You can do all of that yourself. What you're doing when you buy, excuse me, something like an Electron Digitact is the money that you're investing goes towards not needing more outboard gear necessarily to do what you want to do. But see, that doesn't interest me. I don't like a piece of gear to have a whole lot of functionality within it. And I understand that most people, it's the other way around. You want a piece of gear that has all the function. You just want one box. I want it to do everything so I can produce my beats and sling them out to the world. And why would you not want that? Seriously, I get it. I understand. For me and the people that are like me, I want something bigger than that. I'm not trying to sound arrogant here at this point, but to me, that's kind of thinking small. And yes, you're probably going to have the ability to make a lot more money with the music that you produce than I do. I'm not trying. But again, what I'm getting at is that when you just got one box and you're learning just the internals of that one box, you're selling yourself short. Totally selling yourself short at all times. And you know it. You know it. You know that when there's a lot going on, when you take all this gear and you connect it, and it's like the sword of Damocles now is hanging over your head, meaning that now, in the Peter principle, you've been elevated to the point of your own incompetency. What's going to happen when all these technical difficulties arise? Well, it's going to make you grow. It's going to make you understand the equipment so much better. You're never going to get past a lot of these learning curves and cliffs and brick walls that are going to be thrown up in front of you. For me, it's very hard for me to understand, people that don't understand what I've spent the past 30 years spending a lot of time and effort studying and learning. I don't want to, hey look, if I come off sounding like I'm arrogant or something, there's only so much that I can do to prevent that. We're living in a day and age right now where there's a lot of jealous people, seriously. And they don't want to hear it, that they've got to put in and pay their dues to get to where they want to go. They keep thinking that technology is going to make it easy to be successful. Well, all it's going to do is lower the playing field so that it makes it easier for everybody else around you, too. And now what? So as the barriers to entry keep getting lowered and lowered and lowered, right? At some point what's going to end up happening is your talent is going to be all that rises through. Once we get past this dark age of music that we're currently in, and it's a dark age because of how people are using the technology to create a form of music that they think needs to happen, meaning that they want everything to be perfect. If you notice, modern music is absolutely pristine. It's so perfect that it sounds terrible. Why does it sound terrible? It sounds terrible because nobody's paying attention to genre anymore. Nobody's trying to have a piece of work that is an original, simple idea. If you could see what music is today on a canvas that is an image painted, it's a collage of 1,000 different unrelated things all thrown together, and they're all fighting each other. That's modern music right now. Part of that is technology, but most of it is the industry and the people that run the industry and what they want music to do. You have to ask yourself a question. Why does instrumental music not sell? And you're not going to have the correct answer. Your answer is, well, because people are not interested in that. Now, there is a little bit of that in the sense that everybody's instrument is their voice. You got to understand that, right? Everybody's instrument is their voice. Their voice is everybody's instrument. Everybody has an internal instrument. It's called their voice. We all have the ability to sing if we want to choose to learn how to do it or not. Maybe some people truly are tone deaf, and they'll never be able to sing per se. Was Tom Petty tone deaf? I don't think so. He just had a funky voice that I happen to like. Another friend of mine doesn't like his voice. This other friend of mine thinks that auto-tune's okay. I remember one time when I visited him like many years ago, and he was listening to this band. I'm like, dude, they're using auto-tune. What the hell, man? Oh, but they're just only just like giving all these excuses. I'm like, no. If you use auto-tune, 20 years from now, nobody's going to give anybody credibility 20 years for the people that used auto-tune right now. See what I'm saying? They're setting you up. You have been set up. It's like, I need to go find some examples, where things happen and a society elevates himself to a certain point and then looks back in the past and goes like, oh my God, what were they thinking? That's you right now. You've been suckered into it. So I'm sorry, I got off the beaten path. What does gear have to do with this? Well, again, here we are on YouTube, right? And this game that people play, we're keeping up with the Joneses, where it's like they got to constantly have new gear. How does this affect you? Well, it surely affects us all, right? Because you look around and you see constantly people, hey, it's the new thing. Look, wow, it's the newest, Have you been studying electronics like me? Deeply? Did you really go through and did you watch all those videos that are on YouTube that were produced in the 80s and 90s that go through and tell you all about the history of synthesis, and all of the fundamentals of synthesis? There's several videos out there right now, How many videos on FM synthesis, operator-based digital FM synthesis have you watched? How many hours have you poured into this stuff? I poured lots myself. And after a while, what you start to realize is that there's nothing new under the sun. There's not going to be for a long time. All of the new stuff is going to be pulled out of the digital realm. It's going to be pulled through interfaces. So I keep telling everybody, the new sounds are going to be brought about through new interfaces. Because we've already discovered all the waveforms that there are to be discovered. I know that's hard for you to believe. But I'm hoping that through these talks, and hopefully later, if my channel grows in such a way that I can do better videos that have better visual presentations, I can show to you, right? There's a few people out there who say like, oh, I'm pulling back the veil and I'm showing you the truth. No, they're not showing you the truth. They haven't studied electronics. How can they show you the truth if they don't understand how the fundamentals actually operate, what the point of all of this really is? When you do understand it, it does pull a little bit of the magic out. And that can impact your creativity. I know it has me personally, but I like to kid myself. Maybe I am deluding myself. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I hit the nail on the head here. But if you've been following my channel since I started doing this, I was very prolific in the amount of material that I was throwing out there because it was very easy for me to do. It's a lot easier to produce music if you're only dealing with about 2 or 3 pieces of gear. It makes things flow a lot faster. The more stuff that you have at your disposal, of course, the more option paralysis that you get. But you've got to go into that head first. I mean, you can't stay small the rest of your life. You're going to want to have to evolve and grow. How do I say it? You're not that you're going to want to have to. It's that you're going to have to. There's not going to be a choice. If you want to remain happy, you're going to have to grow a little bit larger in size. You get to a certain point, though, I think, to where, okay, this is enough. I get it. I'm at the point now to where I have everything that I need to do to what, you know, that my brain is going to, or my imagination. I don't want to say my brain, right? It comes more from just intelligence, more from just the actual physics of neurons firing off whatever it is that they do. We tap into something else, some creative force there. It's there. It's really, really wild. And what I find is that if you can allow yourself to be presented with ideas, if your gear can present ideas to you, then you can present ideas back to your gear. And that is what I found with my bass bot, the TT303, is that it produces really awesome random patterns that spark ideas. And I can take those and I can edit them and I can play against those ideas with my own ideas. You see what I'm saying? I think it's really important to have something that can generate, see what I'm getting at, is that for you, so that you don't run into writer's block. Now, what happens when you do run into writer's block? Relax. Are you professional? Do you have an album? Do you have material? Do you have a deadline that you have to meet? If you don't have a deadline, then you need to take a break. What life is telling you at this point is just, hey, just take a break. Don't, as Jack Black said, you know, don't empty that rocket sauce bottle out completely. Let it recharge. If you have a deadline, however, well, here you are with the mental block. What you've got to do to get over it is you've just got to do. That's just that simple. You've just got to do, and hopefully you're doing in a productive direction and not an anti-productive direction. As a programmer, I know it's very, very easy to spend a lot of effort and time to go backwards, to actually make things worse with the code that you just added. You can actually, you know, it's like a house of it's like Jenga. You can cause the whole thing to come crashing down. The whole project, when you're a beginning programmer going into these things, you can actually lose your entire project. It's very hard to describe how it happens, but it can happen. We're not anywhere near that serious, right? But boom, you know. So when you've got a deadline and you've got writer's block, you know, like the worst thing that could happen is you accidentally delete your project or something, you know. Whoops, you know, I was just like, oh, you know, that happens too. You know, you gotta be real careful not to be flailing about. Because what you're having to deal with is you do have a timeline and you've got to work. But you've got to find a way to be productive. Here's your answer. Exercise. At a moment in time, you've got to go do some exercise. Be careful. Don't pull a muscle. Don't stretch a ligament, you know what I mean? Don't break a bone or anything like that. Bend a joint the wrong way. But you need some exercise. And surely at this point in life, you know that you've already done some exercise, so whatever is safe exercise for you, you need to get some cardio to where you're sweating. You're sweating out all of that writer's block. All right? I'm being a little silly, but that's really what you're doing. So, two things. One, you don't got a deadline, take a break. You do got a deadline, add some exercise to the mix. If you're already exercising, okay, you got me on that one. Tell me, hey, in the comments, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I'm not gonna, this is not that kind of channel, seriously. So yes, you can have too much gear. What happens when you have too much gear? Well, I don't know. That's what I'm looking at right now. I've got some stuff that I want to sell off. I've got some other stuff that I am supposed to sell off. Not that I want to or need to, that I have to, because it's like I built it to sell. Namely, I've got 5 guitar pedals that I built. They're passive ring modulators. Now, I built them as guitar pedals, meaning they use 1/4-inch jacks, which for modular synthesizers is not the best thing in the world. It's not the end of the world, but it's not the best thing in the world. However, they're nice, they're hand painted. I had them on sale on Reverb before, but I think I was charging too much. Had a lot of people interested, but nobody even came close to, you know, throwing a line out to even try to catch, you know what I mean? No bites at all. So I get that. The reason why I was probably asking too much is because, well, I don't know. I don't know what price to ask. Well, now I know that that's too much. Pretty soon I'm going to list them back on Reverb at a lower price. There's one problem. I used this clear coat, not the matte, but the shiny clear coat, and it just leaves impressions, you know. So there's like these, they're not scratches, they're just kind of like these marred, large markings where when I put them in storage to be shipped, cause these cosmetic defects. Maybe I can fix them again, sand them down lightly, respray them. You know, I think I'm just going to go and just sell them as is. I have full confidence they're going to work. They're not going to break down or have any issues. They're very, very simple, very, very simple. But they do have 2 transformers in them, which makes them kind of heavy, which kind of feels good, actually. So yeah, I think I'm going to put them back up on sale. I'm guessing like 60 bucks each. It's probably a good price. You know, it maybe cost me 20 bucks each to build them, maybe $30 even from, you know, the time and the effort that I put into it. But hey, whatever. So now at this point I am just yapping. Let me see if I can wrap everything up because we're getting here to the bottom of the coffee. Here goes a plane going over. We got the airport. That one plane that one time was really, really cool. Haven't really seen one as big since. But yeah, gear. Yes, you can have too much. What I would say is, you know, like for me, okay. So here's what was happening to me. You know, when I first started this channel, I just had a few pocket operators, some Korg Volcas, and then I started getting into Roland boutiques. And then at some point I started buying what I consider to be like, okay, these are like, you know, like the desktop modules. Things that are not meant to be cheap necessarily, not cheaper versions of things that are already existing per se, but more items that are just, hey, this is just what it costs. And it's a little desktop item. All kinds of stuff like that out there, right? So, like for example, the Dave Smith Instruments Mofo, or the Terra, whatever it's called, the Pioneer Terra Toraz, that thing. Even the Moog Minotaur, that's another one that I'm talking about. So those, if you see what I'm saying, you know, they're all, you know, roughly under $500. So they're not budget, but they're inexpensive at the same time. And there's really nothing else out there. Okay, so the Taurus is a version of the Moog Taurus pedals, with minus the expensive pedals. But that was my main focus, was avoiding key beds. Maybe that is the there's 3, 4, 5, whatever. If there's 3 main principles in my setup, number 1, minimal key beds. No to minimal key beds. Seriously. Number 2, no modular-ish. I mean, I'm not doing modular though. I mean, I don't have a modular setup. I've got some modular-ish kind of stuff, but no modular, no Eurorack per se. And number 3, no VSTs, no multi-tracking. We'll say it that way, no multi-tracking. And a lot of this, I think a lot of the people, it's like, what? Why would you do that, right? I'm not doing this professionally. If I was being hired by somebody to produce music as a work for hire or just whatever, yeah, it makes a lot more sense to have a project and have all your tracks and yada, 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 yada. Man, do you know, you can't tell me that you don't feel all that way. Just like all of that gear that you've accumulated and you're going to have to move someday, right? Can you have too much gear? Are you moving? Look at these, this fly is ridiculous. Are you moving is the question, right? Do you have too much gear? Do you have to move? Do you have storage for all of this stuff? I mean, look at all the channels out there that in the past, if you've been paying attention, some of these bigger channels where they've moved from one room to another, whatever it is, How long did it take them to move all that stuff and get it all back up and running? Somebody commented on one of my videos, I think when I mentioned that I was going to be moving a few months ago. You just set all that stuff up and you're already going to tear it down and move again? Get out of here, Fly. And yeah, I actually was glad that somebody noticed that they commented that. It was, oh yeah, thank you for saying that, because yeah, this is a huge deal. And I want people to appreciate that when you're like accumulating all of this gear. Second thing to watch out, if you notice, if you've been paying attention to my channel and everything, you know, I had surgery last year. Make sure it's been 1 year and some change now. If you have surgery and like you're fortunate like me to have insurance, you know, it's going to pay for it, you got a job that's looking out for you, or whatever, but you've got insurance and that surgery is not bankrupting you. Watch out, because it's going to kind of have the opposite effect. It's going to make you want to get even more gear, because you're going to say to yourself, wow, I survived, you know, or you're going to look at life and be like, I want to, you know, wow, what is the point of living, you know? It's a little dangerous. It's also exciting, though. It's good in a sense, because yes, if everybody was like, you know, very much passionate to want to be alive and wanting everybody to be happy, I think the world would be a better place on the whole. Makes sense, right? If everybody was wanting people to be happy and not wanting harm, and surely for the most part we would be working to help each other and not hurt each other. So you get into this position coming out of surgery, you know, like, you know, it's weird. You feel like you're a king or something, you know, like almost divine in a sense, because you're like, wow, I feel on top of the world. And if you happen to have, even if you don't have money, I mean, you're going to be like, so watch out for that. It happened to me. So the good news about our hobby is that this stuff, for the most part, retains its value. I'm going to wrap up things real soon here. Reverb recently, I don't know exactly when, I only noticed it yesterday, but they have recently offered a new feature, which is the ability to sort of store a collection. You know, all other sites are already doing this, you know. But it's kind of cool because Reverb has a pretty good estimation of what your current gear is currently worth. And you know, for me, I was very, very surprised to find that a number of devices that I have, you know, they don't have enough data collected to feel that they can confidently provide you with an estimate for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe it's a bug in their software. Because I mean, I would think to myself, really? This gear is not currently selling? For some things that I have, yeah, nobody's selling that item on Reverb right now. It's kind of exciting. Exciting in a good and a bad way. It's like, number one, it's not popular, so if you do want to sell it, who's going to buy it? But number two, it's also really, really rare, so it's kind of worth some money if you do have a buyer. But the other thing, okay, so I think I can kind of get this though. Let's take the Isla Instruments S2400. Still too new to really even know what it's truly even worth, if you think about it. I paid a discount price for mine because it was a pre-order long before the units were available. So I eschewed, I mean, got quite a discount on it actually. And now it's like, you know, you look on Reverb and people are selling them for well over $2,000. But I don't think that Reverb feels confident to say like, yep, that's what it's worth. Because it's still new, you know. Even some of the new Behringer stuff is like, whoa, they don't have an estimate for that, which I thought was pretty odd. And a lot of stuff I'll look at and say to myself, yep, that is definitely I'm going to take a hit if I try to sell that device. But if you use your gear, it's the most important thing. You know, if I want to tell anybody anything, give anybody any advice at all, it's just simply this: use your gear. Use it to make music. Use it to record music. The first thing you want to make sure that you can do is capture the sounds that you're producing with the devices that you've connected together and sequenced, or whatever it is that you're doing. Is to record it, upload that to SoundCloud, YouTube, or whatever, you know, and sit back and don't worry about it, you know, and just say to yourself, you know what, that's the value that I got for using that gear. I don't like popular channels, folks. I don't think that you should watch popular channels. But first of all, you shouldn't listen to what I say. I mean, seriously, why should you do what I tell you to do in the first place? Why should you do what anybody tells you to do? Don't listen to nobody. Nobody. Not a single. I don't care who they are. If it's somebody telling you what to do, don't listen to them. Okay, got that out of the way. But, hello truck. Well darn, I forgot what I was going to say. See, that's what I get for being too preachy. I was trying not to be preachy, and in the process or I was trying to disclaim myself for being preachy, and in the process of doing that, I just became ultra preachy, didn't I? So, yeah. Darn. Here we are again. It was really important what I was trying to tell you right there, you know. Well, the important thing is use your gear. That's really what I'm coming back to. And whatever it was I was going to say, it'll come back to me, I'm sure. But the important thing, if anything, is just to use your gear. Yes, thank you. Ah, okay, I remember now. Sorry for getting ultra preachy on you there. But I really think that, you know, you, right now, make it a point to not follow popular channels just because they're popular. Make it a point to use your subscriptions as your main YouTube launching page. Don't go to the main YouTube homepage. Don't let YouTube recommend videos to you. If you see a video that looks like you want to watch it, look at it first and let's see how many, you know, there's going to be a thumbnail, right? They're going to tell you a lot of information if you hover your mouse or whatever, your pointer over it. It's going to show you how many views it already has. If it's already got 1 million views, then think about it for a second. If this truly was revelatory information, if this truly was something that's really just going to make my jaw drop, would it really have that many views? The answer is no. It's too late. We've gotten past that. YouTube has become saturated with crap, if you haven't already noticed. YouTube only promotes right now what it thinks that people want to see. So what that means is that if you do a search, it's not interested in showing you items that are related to those search terms. It's going to show you the most popular videos that happen to have those search terms in them, and then maybe it might show you eventually down. What it really means is that we have to like narrow our search focuses down, and if you're really good on that, you know, if you're really good at that, search engine optimization, understanding how to make your websites show up at the top of the list, and you understand what to search for. But if you don't, then you're like one of the millions. You're just going to be stuck with getting what YouTube force feeds you. So if you make it a point, right, to join me to stop doing that, it will slowly cause a ripple effect across the board. Sorry for that long disclaimer. But I was watching a Rick Beato video. And here's the only reason why I watch Rick Beato videos, is because some of them are still good. Most of them are crap. I'm sorry, they are. I mean, well, first of all, Rick can't talk on a level down here at all. And it's really wild because it's like he's able to, like, people just are like, they watch his videos and they're just like this. Oh, wow. You know? I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm just, you know. He's elevated to that point now to where people just watch his videos because he's just that popular. He did an interview with Pat Metheny, which might be one of the most important videos on YouTube right now for musicians. So you see what I'm saying? It's like, it's very important for these people like Rick Beato to keep doing what they're doing. I want them to have these. I mean, I'm happy that their channels are what they are, because every once in a while they're gonna throw a bomb out there. But they're just like everybody else, though. The worst part is that because they've elevated themselves to this status, they now have to have a cadence going. They have to play by all these rules and do all this stuff and yada 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 yada, and it sucks. But every once in a while, you're gonna get these gems, this real value. And just like those videos, you're gonna have to sit here, like, you know, and listen to me yap at you this whole entire time. And thank you for sticking around to the end of the video, by the way. Just so I can tell you this one thing. Because if you haven't watched that one Pat Metheny video, well, you should. It's very long, and towards the end of it somewhere, you know, I think I got that from Rick Beato, that eye-rolling look right there. See what I'm saying? That's we parrot each other constantly. Is that what Pat Metheny said was that you should make music for yourself. You should make music for people 20 years from now. Always. And that is what I do. I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. I didn't know it. I wasn't clever enough to state it that way. I would just say that I make music for myself. And that sounds so selfish and it sounds so wrong. The way he said it's so much better. I'll give you another example. One of my mentors way back in the day in software engineering was very good at, he was very geeky, very nerdy. He was also very good at being a social geek and a social nerd that could communicate with managers and other coworkers that were not geeks and nerds. It's very easy for geeks and nerds to be just blunt. You know, we'll say, that sucks. You know, oh, I don't need to worry about that. What that means is that, well, this is actually cool. If I don't need to worry about that, means that, oh, we're not concerned about that to get a solution for our client and to satisfy their needs. See, nerds and geeks, man, we're just blunt. So instead of saying that sucks, he taught me to say, that's not awesome. So on one hand, it's very interesting. You want to remain in positive thinking. I haven't done a video on positive thinking yet. But in terms of positive thinking, you know, and avoiding negative thinking. But yet at the same time, see, you don't want to just drop out negativity altogether. Negative space is still useful and valuable, depending upon how you use it. See, in this particular case, you take something that is negative and you apply a negative to it and it becomes more positive. So instead of saying I'm making music for myself, I'm making music for the future. I'm making music for future generations that haven't even been born yet. That's what I think we all should be doing right now. See, that's the difference between making music for the future. People aren't even born right now who are not going to spend any money. And making music for people right now who you want their money. See the difference? You see what's happened to the music industry? That's what has happened to the music industry. It's not gear. It's greed. It's pure greed. So with that, I don't see what else. I probably should stop right there. I think I could keep talking for a lot longer if you want to know the truth. But no, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. What I need to do, if you notice, I've taken a nice break. After 909 day, I just kind of sat back and just said, you know what? I don't need to put up any videos right now. I'm not monetizing. Have you noticed that? I don't monetize. I'm not going to monetize. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go find a real job and earn some income. That's what I think we all should also be doing. I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life and do what you want to do. I mean, if this is your living, right? If you're one of these people that are like these huge YouTubers and you're actually a professional and that's you're making your living, great. Don't listen to me right now. Keep doing what you're doing. But if maybe you find yourself, oh, this is kind of a trap. This is a job, right? That's what I'm saying. I hope that you can at least allow your viewers to understand that, that it's okay to not be a popular YouTube channel. In fact, it's great. I want there to be more of us out there. No, listen, if there's an argument that there's too much music right now being put out, no, there's not. No, there's not at all. What I would argue is that most of the music that the recording industry is putting out sucks. It flat out sucks. Not only is it not awesome, it sucks. Absolutely. It's garbage. It's garbage that is designed to rot your brain. If you can't get that, if you don't see that, then, man, I hope I can help you because you got a cancer in there that's working to rot your brain right now. I don't know what science these evil people in the recording industry have come up with, but they've actually found a way to make you dumber by listening, especially watching the music video. Oh my God, you watch the videos that are associated with, really? I'm sorry. And I know that sounds condescending. Forgive me for sounding condescending to you. But please, please understand that it's like a parasite that they've stuck inside of you, and it's sucking your soul out. And the only thing you can do is just shut it out. Like Ravi Shankar once taught me, not personally, I wish I could have met him. Still can, of course. I'd like to meet Ravi Shankar. Is that yes, you know, part of being positive is saying no and rejecting the things that you don't want. That is part of this too. And I think that evil people would trick you into thinking that you're not supposed to reject. Oh, you're supposed to be open-minded and just let it all come. No. No, 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 no. Go out into the woods. Don't do this. This is a metaphor. Go out into the woods and wander till you find a hungry bear. And just go, ooh, we're going to jive, bear. Just going to feel the love. On that note, I'll stop. You still here? It's over. Go back to work. Go.